Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Keeney. I am a senior real estate specialist with HomeSmart Evergreen Realty, but I'm also an inspiring real estate investor. So my best client that I had in Pennsylvania was actually a family that had, they were investors, and they had bought 3 properties with me that they fixed up and sold, and then they also used me to sell them. So I always wanted to do that myself, and when I was growing up, my dad also had a couple investment properties. So as soon as I graduated high school, I bought a house with my then boyfriend that needed a bunch of work. So I learned a lot about renovation work over the years, and then after like 10, 11 years, things weren't working out anymore. So then I decided that I was going to go buy my own house that needed fixed up. So it was the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. Everyone knows the market was really bad then. There was tons of short sales on the market. I ended up finding my house. It was a short sale. And it took months for the bank to approve my offer, and my realtor was getting kind of antsy and was trying to get me to buy other properties, but I love the location of this property. It was in the town that I lived in, Columbia. It was in like the uptown Columbia, and all the houses on the street had front yards. The house that was across the street, faced 9th Street. The next house faced 10th Street. So it was the whole block. There was only like 2 houses on each end. So I had lots of space. So I wasn't like looking at a house right across the street from me. So it was a perfect location. And I was adamant that I was going to get the house, and it didn't need a ton of work. It just needed a lot of painting, and the kitchen needed remodeled, the bathroom needed remodeled. And then I ended up buying it for $89,000 in May of 2009. By the time I sold it in April of 2020, I sold it for $149,000. At the time, I had a 5% interest rate, and my mortgage was only about $750 a month. So it was actually less than what I could rent a decent place for. So when I first moved in, the first thing I did was completely demo the bathroom, but I don't have any before pictures of that. So I'm just gonna start with the outside and then work my way through. So that first picture was the before, and over the years, it was like an ongoing project. I would redo the walkway around the house, redo the landscaping, I don't know how many times, until I finally settled with that. Of course, these pictures were taken at the end of March. So you can't see all the pretty flowers that I had planted in the flower garden. But one of the things that I did do was repaint all the shutters. They were all faded green. And so I took them all off the house while I was having the windows replaced. That was over a 2-year period of time. I had half of them replaced the 1 year, and then the next year I had the other half replaced. So when he was replacing the windows for me, I had him take the shutters down, and then I sanded them, repainted them, and then of course put them all back up. The pavers are real stone pavers, so they were super heavy, and that was fun every time I decided to redo the walkway. And the reason why I ended up kind of squaring it off the way I did was because it's easier to mow, and in the winter it's a lot easier to shovel. So the backyard, again, I don't know if you can see in the picture, the walkway kind of went around the air conditioner, and I wanted to make that just one straight shot. Back along the sunroom, when I first bought the house, they had a pond, and it was like all this dirt was piled up against the house. So I ended up leveling that all out, took the pond out, and then I put a bunch of pebbles and stones and got that all nice and pretty. And then they had the spout would run out the back, and I kept getting water in the basement. So I ended up, there was underground drains that ran out to the front, but it was only for the 2 downspouts in the front. So I ended up, and the underground drainage system had broke. So I ended up having to redo the drainage system, and I tied in the 3rd downspout. So all 3 of them went all the way out to the street.
Did you do that by hand, or was it?
Yes, dug it by hand.
That's a good one.
That's amazing.
So then, after I finally got the drainage system worked out, sorry, this was my backyard looking outward. I had a shed, an old shed, and it was starting to fall apart. And so over the years, I ended up tearing that down, and that little chimney that's there, I cut it up into little pieces and burned it little by little until it was all gone. And then I ended up putting a vinyl shed up. And then this was my basement. I kept, like I said, was getting water in the basement. I wanted to dry lock it. Of course, the people that lived there before me had painted pretty much the entire wall. So I took the time to scrape all the paint off, cleaned everything up. And then since I had active leaks, I had to use hydraulic cement. So that's basically the only thing that'll stop active leaks. So every time I would plug up a leak, then a new one would come. And then, so that was just like a whole probably 6-month process of, you know, finding all the leaks, getting everything sealed up. And then I ended up dry locking, and I didn't use that, like some people will buy a block sealer. Block sealer will just end up peeling in like a year or two. I actually use dry lock, which has like the sandy stuff in it, and it really like fills in all the crevices of the block. So that was after we had dry locked the entire basement, and I repainted the floor, the other side of my basement. Again, it was a very long process of stripping all that paint off, cleaning the wall up, prepping it, and getting all the effervescence off and making sure it was completely ready to be dry locked. And as far as I know, it's still not leaking. And then the next thing, because of getting water in the basement over the years, it kept coming over to my bathroom, and it was starting to rot the wood. So I had to tear out all the wood that was in the bathroom. I had help with my stepdad for this one. And then, you know, basically had to rebuild my half bath that was down in the basement. And then we used the moisture board. That's why you see the purple there. And we also dry locked the walls. So that was just kind of like the overall process. And then I have what it looked like after I was done. Big difference.
Big difference.
I think the next thing that we started working on, that was the sunroom. It had carpet and paneling, and of course I forgot to take a picture before. But after I tore up all the carpet, there was all this adhesive on the floor. I had to spend hours upon hours grinding all that adhesive off the floor. That was probably the dirtiest project ever that I have ever done. So once I got the floor all cleaned up, we repainted everything. And then there was a bunch of peeling paint in the ceiling, scraped all that, repainted everything, installed new wood, just basically cleaned everything up. I repainted the railing, and of course the wall going down the steps we dry locked. And then that's just a different angle. That was a lot of work. And that was the steps. They had paneling going down the steps, and when I tore that off, created a bunch of holes. Then I had to patch a bunch of holes. And of course I had to take all the adhesive off, and then that's what it looked like when we were done. This was my kitchen before. I am so horrible at taking before pictures. I had started ripping the cabinets off, and then I was like, oh no, I didn't take a before picture, but I did find a picture of the kitchen from the previous owner, so I included that. They were kind of like built in, and they were compressed wood. They weren't great, so of course that was one of the most important things I wanted to do. And of course, when we pulled the cabinets down, it created a big hole in the plaster, so I had to patch that. The backsplash was like glued on, so I had to scrape all the adhesive off the wall. And then that's like what it looked like after I got everything cleaned up and we primered. And that's just in the process. We painted, and then before we hung all the cabinets. And then on the other side, the pantry cabinet that I bought was too big, so we had to open up the wall. And then to fit that in, and then that's what it looked like when I was completely done with it. This was my living room. You can go through these pretty quick. So basically I just went through every room one by one, and this was my front door. The sun came up towards the front of the house, so it had baked the paint on, and it took me forever to get all the paint scraped off, sanded. Of course I had to like kind of fill in some of the holes that I created from scraping all the paint off. And then by the time it was all said and done, it looked spectacular. And of course my mom helped me with all the painting. This was my dining room before and after. Oh, and that corner cabinet, so you can go to the next slide. That took a lot of sanding. It was built in, So the actual, like, in the back, you can see it was wall. So I wanted to make it look like it was an actual cabinet. So my mom filled in all the cracks with caulk, and then we painted the walls to match the cabinet, so it looked like it was, you know, an actual built cabinet in the corner there. And then this was just a view after the dining room and kitchen were all done, because I kind of did everything in steps. I did the kitchen first, and then went to the living room, and then I was doing the bedrooms, and then I came back down to the dining room. And the next one is bedroom number 1, because I had to, you know, patch up a bunch of holes. Did sanded all the wood down. All the wood had been varnished, and you can't just paint over varnish because it'll just start peeling in a year. So I actually sanded all the woodwork down to like bare wood, primered everything, and then of course painted. That's just the one. My camera wasn't big enough, so I just kind of did all the corners. As you can see, like I replaced the registers and all the outlets. I put ceiling fans in all the bedrooms. You can go that's just another angle. And then that's what it looked like when I was selling it. These are my listing photos. And then this was bedroom number 2. Again, had to sand everything down, and then repainted everything, put in the ceiling fan. I changed all the outlets and switches myself, and I hung all I did the ceiling fans myself too. And then that was when I listed it. Oh, so I took this picture to show like what a difference switching out the hardware makes. So I did that with every single door in the house. Switched out the, like, even the hinges, because I wanted everything to look fresh and new. And even on the closet doors, put in new little cups and everything. This was the last bedroom. I never took a before picture of it. It's just a tiny little room, so I always use it as my office. And then that was my hallway. And then this was the first thing that I started working on, and then one of the last things that I finished. Like I said, when I first moved in, I had gutted my bathroom because I had this ugly tile, and it had a big heavy steel tub, and there was like a lot of, I don't know, it kind of looked like, you know, mildew looking stuff. It was so gross. So I ripped that out, and then you know, put in a new bathtub. The door would open in, so they had a pedestal sink. The pedestal sink that was in the downstairs bathroom, I moved it and put it down there. And I didn't want to have a pedestal sink in my bathroom that I used to brush my teeth and get ready and everything. So I bought that cabinet, and then what I did was I got a door that opened out. That way there was more room in the bathroom. And I had bought the medicine cabinet, and that cabinet is above the toilet, like when I first started working on the bathroom, but then I never hung them. And I had the towel racks and everything, but I kind of just put it off because I lived by myself and it didn't matter. But then of course, you know, when I was going through and repainting the entire house, I was like, oh, you know, we ended up having to repaint the bathroom because over the years, you know, wear and tear, you know, everything just needed touched up. And then I finally hung the cabinets and the towel racks. So one of the things that was important to me, and it took us, between my mom and I, about 8 months to repaint the entire house, but everything, every single inch of that house, I repainted. And one of the things that I'd see a lot with flips was that, well, people would complain. They'd live there after a year and the paint would be peeling, you know, all over the place. And one of the things that was important to me was I wanted it to be done right. That's why I went above and beyond, sanding everything down, prepping everything properly. And my mom, she's a professional painter, so I mean, she did an amazing job painting everything. And I mean, I even, you know, made sure that we repainted the front porch. I repainted the railings that were out there. I, like, everything, like every inch of that house was repainted. And another thing was I wanted to make sure everything looked nice and fresh. That's why I had replaced all the switches, all the outlets, all the registers. I mean, just everything was pretty much brand new. I wanted whoever that bought my house to have a good quality product, and they wouldn't have to worry about, you know, paint peeling in a year or two. I still am in touch with my neighbor, and he said that the guy that bought my house absolutely loves it and he hasn't had any issues. One thing people would ask me was, why would you sell your house after doing all that work? Well, this is exactly why. I was tired of dealing with snow. I mean, as you can see, I have a little dog, and I'd have to shovel paths in the snow for her to go potty. And I'd have to shovel out a spot for my car. I was just so over the cold weather and shoveling snow. And as you can see in that last picture, I, had a really nice view out my living room window, and that's actually the sun rising. And like I said, there was plenty of parking on the street, so that was a big plus when I was selling the house. But yeah, people, they're surprised when they find out that I know how to work on a house. And do all kinds of work like that. But I'm the type of person that likes to learn how to do all that kind of stuff. And I wanted everything to be done right. I mean, I did, pay to have someone replace all the windows. I had my roof replaced. There's certain things that I couldn't do myself, but everything that I could manage myself, I wanted to take care of. And it was, a really big project, and I got a lot of satisfaction out of it once I sold it, and then I got to move to California.
Yes.
Anyway, that's it.
Awesome.
Nice job.
Very good.
We don't have many basements here. You mentioned dry lock. I'm not familiar with that term. What is dry lock?
Well, it's an actual brand too. It's a paint that has sand in it, and it is meant to go in all the crevices of the block and kind of seal it up, and that way you won't get the moisture coming through.
So is it like a thinner kind of grout, so it's more?
No, it's an actual paint, but it's really thick. I don't know if you've ever
We have a
used...
gallon of it at my shop. Paul, if you come by, I can show it to you.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
called dry lock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
just for, okay.
yeah, it's
The claim
block
is that it
walls.
seals.
It
but-
seals.
But we don't use it for sealing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it of course you need to prep the wall properly, and you can't have any active leaks. Like, you have to make sure that
It's dry.
right.
Yeah.
But supposedly, if you put it on properly, you got to make sure you get it in all the little crevices and everything, that it'll help as be a moisture barrier. And it's got like a sandy texture. There's actual like kind of sand in it. So like when we were painting, you'd have all the sand flying on you. But yeah, yes.
If you were to do it over again, would you have changed anything?
I don't know. I think I definitely want to do a live and flip again, but I will definitely be hiring more people to do it because it's a lot of work, and it takes a long time when you're doing everything yourself. And
Plus, you already learned it, so it's okay. You like learning it, not necessarily doing
Yeah,
it, learning
yeah,
it, so that's good.
And now you know what you want, right? Because you've
Oh.
done it.
Yeah, and one thing that was great is over the years of attending home inspections, I knew exactly what the inspector was looking for. Like one of the things was in the basement, I forgot to talk about that. I had this flexi pipe for the dryer vent, and if it's over, I think 6 feet, you're not allowed to have like flexi pipe. So I ended up putting in the straight metal dryer vent to run it across the basement over to where it was exhausting out, and just little things that they would talk about during the inspection. I made sure I took care of that, so when the buyer did a home inspection, they only flagged one thing, and it was that the chimney needed capped. Well, I didn't know that because I wasn't up on the roof lately because I had someone else replace it for me. So that was also pretty rewarding, knowing that they didn't flag anything in the inspection, anything major in the inspection. I had taken care of it because I knew what to look for, when that would be done.
Very
Yes?
nice.
What was your favorite room to work on?
Oh my goodness. Probably my kitchen, just because it turned out, to me, I really liked how it turned out. And I bought the cabinets that you had to put together, so of course I put all the cabinets together myself.
That's amazing.
I had someone that helped me hang all the cabinets. I had someone help me do the tile, the backsplash and everything. But yeah, to me, I always wanted to have a really nice kitchen. So I actually got to use that for about 8 months before I sold the house. So that was nice.
Did you refinish the floors yourself? The floors look beautiful.
Oh, actually,
The wood
no.
floors.
Those wood floors were from when I bought the house, and I just kind of got lucky that they were in really good condition. And of course, I'm very meticulous, so I clean constantly, and I was always polishing the floors and everything. So I didn't have to do anything with them before I sold the house.
Did you and your mom install all the interior door handles yourself?
Oh, I did that myself. No, my mom just did all the painting. Everything else I did, yeah.
Good for you.
I replaced all the hinges myself, all the hardware on the doors. Like I said, I replaced all the switches and outlets myself, the ceiling fans. Yeah.
Impressive.
It is
Thanks.
very.
Totally is. I hate doing that.
You're very proud of yourself.
Thanks.
But you